about 2 years ago during the pandemic, and so many funerals or memorials that should have happened didn't happen. So I'm really glad to the family for putting this together, even 2 years later. He's still in our hearts, and this is a great afternoon to be here. For me, this is really personal because the Gioia family and the Enos family really go back over 50 years, the relationships we had. And for me, it started with my dad's relationship with the Enos family. And because I remember I was 9 years old that first year when Kennedy opened in 1967, and Randy was in the first graduating class. My dad had been also over at Harry L's teaching in 66, 67, and then when L's closed, many of those great teachers, including my parents, who I know is going to be here. I see Mike's daughter. Mike is, where's Mike? There he is. Okay, Mike's here. Some amazing teachers came over from Harry L's over to Kennedy, and great students too. And Randy being one of those great students, and my father being a teacher there when Randy was a student. That's the first connection. But I knew my dad knew Randy's dad. So in a way, thinking about it, just 3 generations of Enos's that have provided service here in West County, and seeing and knowing Ben doing that same good work. And so I got to know Randy through my dad, and my father was one of Randy's master teachers when Randy became a student teacher at Kennedy. And then when, in fact, 35 years ago this month, 35 years ago last week, my father died really prematurely at 58 from cardiac arrest. And Randy took over teaching my dad's students for the rest of that year. So he's been a student, he was a student teacher with my dad, and then I thought it was so appropriate that he took over finishing that school year. A really hard thing to do for a teacher, right? To step in and take over from students who still think of that. So to me also, Randy was like a connection to my dad too. It's hard for me. And Randy did a great job, and of course went on to be a teacher, administrator, principal, being a coach. I didn't get the benefit of Randy as a coach because I ran track and cross country at El Cerrito while Mike Aronian was throwing touchdowns. So I had Hale Roach as a coach, and so Randy continued his work in the school district up to being principal. And then, of course, after he retired, got on the school board. And so for Randy, it was always about the kids, right? It was always, think of someone who's, the son of a teacher and administrator, or a student in this district, a teacher, an administrator, a principal, a school board member. And it was always about what would make sense for the kids in this district. And Janet, I want to thank you too, family. I know you worked at the preschool daycare for my son Chris.
Your father giving me a gift grade, I graduated because your father was bad.
that you deserved, right? And thank you for helping care for my son when he was in daycare at the school you worked at. And I would talk to him a lot when he was on the school board, and he talked a lot about Virgil and the advice he was getting from Virgil too, right? Talked about you. And he'd come in to my office sometimes and we'd chat, and I could tell when it was weighing heavy on him. It's hard being on a school board, especially in an urban school district like West Contra Costa. And I could tell how much that was wearing on him to make the right decision. Tammy, we hear about this, and I knew he always had his heart in it, and his mind, and his body. Everything was in it for him. And he'd come in and we'd talk even after he got on the school board. It was as if he was still on the school board, right? He still cared about those things. And you've all told stories about him and his, whether it was as a student, a fellow teacher, being coached by him. He just represents the best, I think, of so many other good employees and coaches and teachers in our school district, and some of you here. right? I mean, he just represented the best of all of us. And yes, as others have said, it was about his family too. He always talked about his family a lot. He cared what was going on, and he cared so deeply what was going on here in the schools. I'll still say Richmond Unified School District from years ago, right? To West Contra Costa. He cared because he's whenever things weren't going well, it affected him personally. I could tell that. And if he always wondered why people didn't always have the best interest of kids. So he always, why isn't that? You know, he always fought for that. So I just wanted to be here to acknowledge personally, as well as on behalf of the county, because you know he made a difference for all of us in West Contra Costa County growing up here, I think he's an inspiration to the students. You know, when you're the son of a teacher, you hear a lot about, you know, hey, I had your dad, I really liked your dad. I heard from people who had Randy as well, students who had him, who talked about how great he was and the effect that he had on their life. And you know this. As the wife, you've heard those stories as well, and you supported him, the whole family supported him, and he was proud of all of you. And I think he saw West Contra Costa County as one big family, right? And so he may not be here, but you know, he's with us in our hearts. He's left you're his legacy. Think about that. I mean, all of what you do every day is carrying out the legacy of people who had an effect on our lives. And you're here because he had an effect on your life. So I know we will continue to be inspired by Randy. And I won't read it, but I did bring just a legacy from our county, acknowledging Randy. The last paragraph I'll read is Randy's charm, dedication, good humor, belief in the power of education, and love for all children lives on in the hearts and minds of the countless former students whose lives he touched. And that's Randy.